Diesel fuel came along, then jet fuel. Then the refiners started to develop ways of taking the bigger molecules and cracking them in half, or taking the smaller molecules and gluing them together.
And in this way, the modern petrochemical industry was born. About 10% of all oil is now converted into pretty much everything, from plastics to paints, from pesticides to painkillers.
We're born into these, in the sterile rooms. The plastic gloves catch us as we come out. We're swaddled in polyester, and then we live our lives bathed in oil.
Sonia Shah is a journalist, not a geologist. It was while researching a book on crude that she came to realise how deeply oil has seeped into our modern lives.
Some drip of oil has entered into almost everything we do. What's happened a lot of times now is even simple foods have become more and more complicated because people need things to be convenient. The so-called value added, which means a lot of petrochemicals and petroleum products. These vegetables, I would suspect, are all grown quite far away from where we are right now. So they've been sitting on refrigerated trucks for several days, burning diesel, on our asphalt roads. And the whole thing's wrapped in, in a hard plastic. This is a natural food that has oil added to it. The average American uses about 3 gallons of oil every day. And that's probably a gallon for travel, a gallon on their products, and a gallon in their food. From, our food to our clothes to our medicine cabinets to our toothpaste, it's really everywhere.
Even if you don't think a product has oil in it, it probably does. From the nets of fishing boats to the fertilisers on farms, petrochemicals have become indispensable components of human society. And oil, the fuel of choice to move everything around. But what if this river of crude was to slow? It would take a brave man to suggest that the bounty of oil had a limit, especially back in the 1950s. Especially a man in the business. Marion King Hubbard was a geologist of fearsome intellect and strong reputation. He worked at the Shell Research Labs with Ken DeFaze.
One of the standard expressions around the Shell lab, and I think it had been borrowed from another source, was just that Hubbard is a bastard, but he's a higher bastard.
The question of how much oil do we have is a matter of evidence, not anybody's opinion.
By 1956, Hubbard had become convinced that oil production from US wells would peak in the early 1970s. And he was going public.
The company said that, look, our position is we can find plenty of oil, just give us the right tax advantages and access to the drilling sites, and we'll keep you in oil, forever. He gave the first talk with the management of Shell Oil on the phone until 15 minutes before he went on the platform saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And he did it.
Shell's management needn't have been so concerned. Few people paid Hubbard's predictions any attention. And why would they? A bottomless barrel of oil had now been found under the shifting sands of the Middle East. The endless sunshine from an ancient world would be ours for the taking. Dr. Nesta Sander, now 92, is the last surviving member of the team of oilmen who found crude in Saudi Arabia. Today he lives in a modest house in Modesto, California.
I'm just a workman. I got a penny for every barrel of oil that's been produced. I wouldn't be sitting here in Modesto. I started out way back in 1938. I was there 6 months after oil was found in Saudi Arabia.
Back in 1938, after 4 years of dry holes, a shallow test well had shown oil was present in Saudi Arabia. Nestor's team was brought in to find out just how much and where.
I started out as a junior micropaleontologist whose job was to locate the traps where oil might accumulate. Oil is lighter than water, so that when oil migrates, it has a tendency to go up.
First, Nestor pinpointed the giant Abcake field.
Finding a new well that produced 7,000 or 10,000 barrels a day every 2 or 3 months was a heady feeling, I tell you.
But there was a bigger surprise to come. Nestor turned his attention to a geological structure known as the Gawar anticline.
After the wells at either end of Gawar had been drilled, the company knew that it was onto something tremendous.
Nestor and his fellow oilmen had uncovered the treasure trove of the Jurassic Tethys Ocean. The Gawar field would prove to be the largest oil field ever found on Earth. A supergiant, it was 35 kilometres wide and 175 kilometres long.
In terms of global resources, it's one of a kind. I would say the North Sea, for example, would be 1/10 of Gawar by itself, the entire North Sea.
Somewhere down inside the pore spaces of the Gawar reservoir was the carbon atom we met earlier. It had now waited over 160 million years to see the light of day. Just a few more, and it would be free again. The world has been awash with oil ever since the massive deposits were uncovered in the Middle East. Everyone wanted a slice of the action. The Soviet Union moved into the Caspian Sea deposits near Baku in a big way, pumping dry one well after another.
Sitting here since 8 o'clock this morning. How about I didn't go to work yesterday because I had no gas?
There's no need for panic or panic buying with the long lines we've seen on TV.
There was a little pandemonium at the pump during the oil crises of the 1970s, but it didn't slake the planet's thirst for oil, growing steadily at about 2% per year.
Stop the line, you're going to have to go around the corner. The line pause at the next street.
And shut out of the Middle East by OPEC, the big Western oil companies simply turned up the heat elsewhere. Rigs began pumping oil from technically challenging areas such as the North Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, and beneath the Alaskan permafrost. There were concerns, of course, about air pollution and oil spills. But the world was yet to start worrying about global warming and the end of oil.
Once the oil from those fields started coming online, we kind of forgot about all that other stuff.